everyone. Welcome back to the Talkin Kop. I'm here with Kev. We're hoping that everything worked properly because we're doing a new intro button. So I think it's all working. But yeah, Kev and I are here to discuss the game this weekend in the Premier League between Chelsea and Liverpool. We are all hoping for a bit of a rebound. Had a tough couple last games. It's been a hard week, Kev. It's been a hard week as an analyst or fan analyst or whatever you want to call it, YouTuber, to talk through these games over and over again. I'm really looking forward to, hopefully, a fresh start on Saturday. How are you feeling going into this game?
It's away at Chelsea. I'm always nervous. It's just one of those horrible grounds to go to that no matter what form you're in, they're always horrible, hard games. And nailed on, Chelsea will get chances. It'll be one of those games. Like it could end up in a game like last season where we turn around and say, "Fine, right, we'll give you the ball," and see how it goes. I mean, the last game we played at Anfield, we lost 3-1. I know it was the end of the season. I know it was like May last year or something, and they scored a late.
Everyone was partying at that point.
Yeah, but even still, it was like they scored a late penalty to gloss over the result. But last year, that result against them away from home was kind of like a real arrival for Arne Slot. You know, it was one of those performances that you stand back at the end of the season and you go back to the Chelsea game and it goes, yeah, that was different. You know, that was something that we hadn't really seen, where we turn around and said to a side, right, here, have the ball, break us down, and if you lose it, and when we get it back, we're going to cripple you. And we did on numerous occasions last year. We were brilliant in that away game at Chelsea. Even then, it was a tough one. You know, it was a really tough game. Curtis Jones, I thought that day was outstanding. But this season, you look at Chelsea's form and you're thinking to yourself, you know, 2 wins, 2 draws, 2 losses in the league. They struggle to keep 11 men on the pitch at times. They've got injuries, they've got problems, but you know, we have problems. It's one of those, you know. I think Maresca is under pressure. I think Maresca is under pressure, real pressure for the first time from Chelsea.
I think there's been rumors that he's under pressure as well. You know, obviously Twitter in the know people. I don't know what you want to take, if you want to take any sort of credence from that, but there is rumblings that Maresca is under pressure and that he has, you know, a matter of a few games to kind of save his job. I mean, they did win against Benfica. That was a big result for them. They had lost their previous 2 matches. I don't think they'd lost 3 in a row for quite a while. Off the top of my head, I had the stat and it's just gone. But to get them back on track, I mean, I think that's kind of a blessing and a curse. I feel like at least they're not going into this feeling like they need to really get back on track. Whereas I feel like we're going into this thinking, you know, we've got to change something. We've got to change the narrative, because especially going into an international break right after this, the last thing that I want is to have 3 games where we're all kind of questioning the mentality, the tactics, the team, the manager. I want just a clean break for the international break where we can at least have some positivity.
Yeah, I think a performance is what you want to see. Love to see a performance. If you see a performance, you'll get a result. And you know, there's been patches in this season already that, you know, we've shown in halves or in parts of games what you want to see going forward, but we haven't been able to create that repetitive action, that repetitive attacking that you want to see, that consistent pressure that you want to see, and that's going to take time to evolve. I was chatting last night with Gav on the Patreon post-match extra, and we were talking about the amount of changes, and when you looked at it on paper, at one point in the, I think it might have been in the Champions League game, I'm not sure, but you had a front 4 at one stage of Ekitike on the left wing, Isak up front, Salah on the right, and Wirtz in behind. And you think, on paper, that looks absolute pure class. In reality, that's 4 players who haven't got a clue how to play with each other. You know, the only constant in that, for our point of view, is Mo. So it's like, it's no wonder, really, that we're needing individuals to use moments in games at the moment because we're just not growing, and it's going to take time, and it's painful to watch at times. And Gav made a good point actually, and it was when we did the post match after the loss of Galatasaray, but that was in the moment. When you stand back and look at it 24 hours later, you're like, yeah, we're going to get games like this. It's going to be a while until we start to see that. The difference last season and what would worry me about Chelsea this weekend, if we go with the same idea that we went last season, where, okay, you have the ball. Last season, we had 11 players who knew how to play with each other inside out. The manager was the only change. Everything else was exactly the same. So the triggers, everything from the 11 that were on the pitch knew each other inside out. This season, that's completely different. And if you set up with a defensive mindset to try to nullify Chelsea and then hit them on the counter, it's a massive gamble. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if that's how he goes, because it's the one thing when you look at Chelsea with Maresca, even when they've been in games down to 10 men, they dominate the ball. With the midfield pairing of Enzo Fernandez and Caicedo, more often than not, they are going to dominate possession. So you have to be really clinical when you get the ball, when you get the turnover. You have to be really accurate in your counters. And it'd be, if we do that, and Isaac does play, it'd be nice to be able to see Isaac with space to run into, and players being able to find him. It's one thing to really look out for on Saturday. That if we do give up, if we do say, right, you have the ball, and we look at players, how are we going to build the counter-attacks? And you have someone like Isaac or Ekitike, if he's available, to be able to make those runs in behind against what will be an inexperienced centre-back pairing for Chelsea. That could be our way home in this game.
Yeah, I feel like there's two separate questions here. Obviously, they go hand in hand. The first one is, how does Slot set up tactically? And are we going to see more of the same as what we saw perhaps against Palace? I hope not. Or are we going to see some sort of reverting back to type? So there's that question. And then there's also the question of personnel, which we went into in the post-match quite a bit. I was quite heavy-handed on Slot regarding just the sheer amount of rotation and the square pegs and round holes and moving Dominic Szoboszlai around. That's going to be a question as well. Let's talk tactics first, because we'll get into personnel in detail. How do you expect Slot to set up for this game? And do you think that he is in a scenario where he is he too hard-headed right now? Is he sticking with something because he really wants to persevere and try to get it right? Is he not recognizing that there are issues? He seems like an incredibly astute manager. I find that very hard to believe. But do you think that he's really trying to push through this kind of thread the needle moment to get to the other side? Or, like, what do you think is going on here? I can't quite put my finger on it.
I wonder if we've all watched pretty much every interview he's done across the board. One constant thread in all of the interviews that he's done is talked about the players' fitness levels in and around March time, in and around the Newcastle League Cup final, the PSG game. And he said he went from November through till that period playing the same 11 all the time. And I wonder if he's overcompensating, rotating early in the season to be able to, because it's something that he didn't really do last season. And I wonder if that's playing on it. I'll never understand playing Dominic Szoboszlai at right back when you have a right back in front of it. It blows my mind. Blows my mind. Because Dominic Szoboszlai spent a year at RB Leipzig playing on the right wing, scoring goals and creating, and was really effective. So we know he can do that job. If you want to play him there. Play Frimpong at right back, because he's a right back. He's a defender. You're never going to get a settled back four playing the right back on the right wing. It makes no sense. And the worst of it is, you had Salah on the bench. Unless he was carrying a knock, Salah should have been playing. And you can cap off Salah should have been playing by saying, right, you've got an international break after Chelsea. So why on earth wasn't Salah starting against Galatasaray? It makes no sense. Unless he wants to protect Salah early in the season to be able to use him when he comes back from AFCON. That's the only thing that I can think of, is that he's trying to rotate players early in the season for later on. I can't think of any other logical reason for it, because the one thing, when you've got 4 or 5 or 6 new signings that you want to bed into an 11, that you play them. You play them regularly, you play them often, as much as possible when they're available. And you play them in on the pitch, and you make your substitutions around that. But he hasn't been doing it. It baffles me. But how he approaches this on Sunday or Saturday, I think a lot of it's going to come down to Chelsea, who Chelsea's back. I think Chelsea are more than likely going to have a pretty inexperienced centre-back pairing. They have a goalkeeper that has a rick in him. He has a mistake in him. They have a brilliant... That centre midfield pairing with Fernandes and Caicedo has really evolved.
Has come good, yeah.
It's come good over the last year, and it was always going to come good because they're good players. It just took a bit of time for them to gel. Reece James looks like he's back and playing, and he's fine at right back. And more likely, your man with the weird hair, what's his name, the left back, Cucurella. That's him. I love his hair. He's just got the mad David Luiz hair. It's cracking. I love it. But yeah, he'll be playing at left back. And then it's the case, more than likely, Pedro Neto, Evanista or something. The young 17-year-old Estevao. Yeah. Wouldn't be surprised if he plays. He starts.
Yeah, I think he'll play.
I don't know what they'll do in the 10.
I think it'll be
João Pedro up front.
Yeah, I think it'll be Neto, Estevao, and Pedro up front.
Yeah.
And then maybe I think Gusto starts, Hato starts, Cucurella starts. There's another young kid, Archimpong. I don't know how you pronounce his name.
Yeah, I know
think
who
he starts. I think Reece James could come in, maybe.
Yeah, I think Reece James will start. Right back. I look at Pedro Neto. I remember Pedro Neto a couple of years ago, the amount of shows that we were doing, myself and Chris, talking about him. A proper player. I honestly thought he would end up at Liverpool at one stage, but his body kept letting him down, and Chelsea gambled on it. And the gambles paid off. I think he's a class act. He's so quick, and he delivers a really accurate cross from wide. And I think they scored a goal against Benfica. It was an own goal, but it came from across from wide, and they're a threat from wide. So it wouldn't surprise me if we look to block off the middle and encourage them to play from wide, play crosses from deep, and then trust the fact that Konate and Virgil will win most balls in the air. We win the second balls and get on the counter that way. Cole Palmer is likely he's going to be missing.
He's not going to be around.
No, yeah. He's a big miss for him, because him in the 10 is a problem. He's getting better. It's I think I wouldn't be a bit surprised if Slot picks an 11 to combat what Chelsea are going to do, not an 11 for us to dictate our game on them. Yeah. Dan has a valid point. Dan is saying, I'm just jealous of anyone with hair on their head. Dan, all mine, buddy. All mine. And it's not all grey.
I think he's saying that he's just jealous.
Oh, you're jealous, Dan. Are you in the Keith Plunkett brigade? Are you in Keith Plunkett long lost relatives? I'm wondering. But yeah, no, it's mad hair. It's the best hair going. He should be doing the Vidal Sassoon shampoo adverts, honest to God. He's just a walking advert for it.
I was amazed that David Luiz still had that hair.
It is played for Papos, isn't it?
It's receding, and it's not quite as full, but I was amazed that he was still rocking it. Like, there is a point where a lot of guys say, nope, I'm, basically cutting my losses. But he's still rocking it. Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, Cucurella could continue. And you've actually seen him get cards for people pulling his hair. So
I know.
It's tactical as well.
It's a tactical hairstyle of the 21st century.
Oh, it's just crazy.
What I was going to say, though, if you look at Chelsea at the minute,
yeah,
they are struggling to keep 11 on the pitch. They've had, as someone said earlier, 3 red cards this season. I think they can be got at mentally. I think you can wind them up. I think they know their manager is under pressure, and I think the players who he's picking week in week out will look to do what they can for him and try to play through it for him. You always tend to find that when managers are in trouble, it's the players who he picks on a regular basis are the ones who will fight for him. So I would love to see someone actually in our midfield really rattle a couple of players, not stupidly, but wind them up a bit. Play the dirty side of the game. Draw fouls, go down, roll around a bit, just piss them off. And play that ugly side of football. Draw them onto them, draw their ire, get their tempers going, and see how they handle it. Because I with only two wins in the league this season, they are under pressure. And unlike last season where they were able to rotate in Europe and rotate heavily in Europe, they're having to go with more or less the same core squad like a normal Champions League side, and then they haven't had to do that before. So this season is new for a lot of these players, having to play Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Sunday, League Cup, back into the Premier League again. The relentlessness of that is a tough one. So I know that it's going to be a game that we're going to get chances. You look at the goal that Danny Welbeck scored, the header. Ball came from out wide, and it was a brilliant cross into the box. But it was a great header, but it wasn't high. It was a flat ball into the box. Danny Welbeck didn't have to get off the ground. So they can be got at through crosses. And if we get the ball wide like we have been doing, but instead of getting the ball wide and working it back through the middle, trying to work 1-2s to work our way into the box to score a perfect goal, put the fucking thing into the box. You got fullbacks, Kerkez and Frimpong, who can put crosses in. Put crosses into the box. You've big strikers and support the striker from wide and from a midfielder. It's what Chelsea will do. Chelsea will get the ball wide, look for Enzo Fernandez to make that extra man run into midfield. And when it breaks down, that's when you can capitalize on it. That's where you need someone who's in the 10 and someone who can play off that and play a striker in. But I'm fascinated to see how this one goes. Nervous as hell because it's away at Stamford Bridge. Nervous like you wouldn't believe. Especially because
we don't have a great record there.
No.
We don't have any wins in 4, which doesn't mean that it's not time for that to change. But games against Chelsea are always tight. I feel like Arne Slot has come out multiple times and said, that Chelsea is one of the hardest opponents that he faces.
But I think that Arne Slot says that because we make it hard for ourselves, mainly because of this. We don't do crosses. And it's mind-boggling to me. We've really good crosses of a football. We've good tall strikers who are good in the air. And you have the worst case scenario is a cross comes in, right? Keeper gets one, all right? You adjust. The keeper can't come for the next one. The defender gets the header on. It goes out to the edge of the box. You have McAllister, you have Szoboszlai, you have Gravenberch, you have whoever on the edge of the box. Take the ball down, have a crack. You win a corner from that.
It's interesting because I look back at Burnley and I say we did do crosses in that game. So statistically against Burnley, we had 52 total crosses.
Yeah.
12 of them were successful. Burnley on the flip side only had 5 crosses with 0 that were successful. But we didn't get anything from any of those crosses.
I know. But what I would say to that is Burnley were parking the bus. Burnley made it so that they had 5-4-1 and they had 9, 10, even 11 players behind the ball. So the only thing you could do was get it wide and put it in. But against your normal sides, against your Arsenals, Chelsea tomorrow or Saturday, your sides who are expected to qualify for Europe, we're going to want to try and play football against you. We don't tend to put crosses in. Because the one thing that they will do is they will leave 1 or 2 up. Then Chelsea aren't going to defend with 9 and 10 behind the ball. They will leave a winger out wide on the halfway line cheating. They will leave João Pedro to occupy whoever's playing in the 6 to stop him getting on the ball. You know, they're not going to be as defensively minded, but that should create space around the edge of the box to collect second balls from crosses that go into the box. I just think it's something that we should have in our armory that we don't utilize enough. Salah, you know, there's no reason why if Salah's playing that he can't check back onto his left foot and put crosses into the box. He made a living doing it in Italy for Edin Dzeko. You know, Edin Dzeko extended his playing career in Italy for a couple of years on the strength of Mo Salah crosses. So we know he can do it. And on the flip side, we know Cody Gakpo can deliver a good cross because he's taking the corners. You know, so we have that in our armory as well. And it's something that we need to utilize a bit more.
I mean, that being said, we're also talking about going up against Hato. And we talked at length about Hato because we looked at him as a perhaps left back option, perhaps center back option. And one of the things that pretty much everyone universally agreed was he's very small. Yeah. So there is a possibility for a height advantage there. I think their other center back, Archimpong, I'm going to just butcher that every time. Yeah. He's taller. He's 6'3", so he's not going to be the one to target there.
I wonder if Badiashile would play.
I'm not sure.
And I don't think Hato will start for a start. I think it'll be Badiashile will play. Because Chalobah is suspended, I think, isn't he? So he got sent off.
Yes, he got the red card in the last Brighton game. And, I mean, Caicedo, we talked about this in Ref Watch. If you're in our Patreon match, he's lucky to be on the pitch at all.
Yeah,
he should 100%. Not be playing this game. He should have gotten sent off, in my opinion. Yeah. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about tactics. Let's talk about personnel, because I think that if anyone sees Szoboszlai at right back again, Kev's head might explode. Let's just talk about what you think is going to happen going forward, because I don't want to see Szoboszlai at right back either.
No. Look, I think this will be my 11. All right. Well, no, I think this will be the 11 he'll go with as well. I think it'll be Mamardashvili in goal. I think it'll be Frimpong at right back, Konate, Virgil, Robertson at left back. I think he'll play 2 6s. One of them will be Szoboszlai. The other will be Gravenberch. I think he'll play Wirtz in a 10. I think he'll play Gakpo, Isak, and Salah as a front three. And I wouldn't be opposed to it. I wouldn't be opposed to that. I mean, the thing is, McAllister isn't pulling up any trees at the minute. If he was, then he'd start, and there'd be a decision to make on whether you revert to what we did last season and put Szoboszlai in the 10. But I think he'll persist with Florian Wirtz and just play him till it works. But the key to playing Florian Wirtz in the 10 is you have to get him the ball with support. There's no point in giving him the ball with nobody around him. It's the difference between the Premier League and the Bundesliga. You give him the ball with nobody around him, the centre-backs read it, and they're swarming all over him. They'll bump him off the ball. And he'll get away from him sometimes, but other times he'll lose it in a bad position, and then they're on the counter in against 2 centre-backs because we've committed to getting forward. So you have to give him the ball in the right areas, but with support. So I think this game is won and lost in midfield. The 3 in midfield that Chelsea go with, the 3 in midfield that Liverpool go with. Who can get the better of that battle wins this game? Because I don't think this game will be a draw. I think either way, Chelsea win, Liverpool win, there'll be 3 points picked up by somebody this weekend. But I think he'll go with Szoboszlai. I think he's desperate to keep Szoboszlai playing because of the form he's in and what he offers you in an attacking sense. But the other option that he would have is playing Jones in a 6 with Gravenberch and putting Szoboszlai into a 10, but not a 10 really, more like an 8, and play a 4-3-3. And that if you don't see Wirtz playing, I think he's going to concede possession and look to play on the counter. If you see Wirtz playing, I think he'll look to try to dominate the ball, and then it could be a really interesting game.
I mean, I think about what we were successful with against Chelsea last season, and it was that more combative midfield. I mean, obviously McAllister, there was a question a couple comments back about McAllister. Is it form? Is it fitness? It's a little bit of everything for him. He had an injury. He had some time off. He missed most of preseason. He's now kind of coming into the end of his own preseason. He still doesn't look fit. I think that he's the biggest miss in our team. You and I were talking about this after a show the other night. I think that he is the tempo setter in our team, and he's one of the big reasons that we look so lethargic. And I think that he's also the one that goes in with the tackles and adds that little bit of grit, and he would be the perfect player in form for this game. I am almost leaning toward the second of your options, where you take Florian Wirtz at least out of the midfield. And I don't like the idea of putting Florian Wirtz at left wing, but if I was going to choose kind of one person that I wanted to move around, I think I want to get that midfield to be solid. And I think that Jones, although he doesn't have Palmer to deal with, I think that he really worked well in that Chelsea midfield last year. I think putting Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, and Jones together, that gives you probably as close to what we had last season as we have at the moment. I think there's an argument to put Bradley at right back, just to add. I think he's just a little bit more defensively minded. And I think if you have Robertson on one side and Bradley on the other, again, speaking to what I was talking about post-match, kind of solidify that back section of the team, solidify the defense, solidify the midfield. If you're going to experiment up front with your big signings in Isak and maybe Wirtz over on the left wing, which I don't love again. And I'm saying those things for a couple of reasons. The first is I think that we have destabilized that right side so much with the messing around of Szoboszlai, the moving forward of Frimpong, all of these kind of experimental tweaks. And every single person on that right side, and I include Konate in this, has looked shaky as hell. And I think that I think he's going to persist with Konate because I just don't think that he trusts Gomez to start. And I think if you want to protect Konate and if you want to bring out the best in him, I would add some stability around him. So adding that slightly more defensive right back in Bradley, add Szoboszlai in front of him because that has worked in the past, and then allow that chemistry to kind of rekindle between Szoboszlai and Salah going forward. And I think Salah has looked most dangerous with Bradley behind him. I think he hasn't quite figured out how to work with Frimpong. They sort of feel like they get in each other's way at the moment.
Yeah.
So for me, I'd work with that, create that stability, and then you're going to have to do something up front that is new and different. So whether that's Isak, I don't think Ekitike will be starting, I don't think. But that being said, he is in the France squad, so it's not a bad injury.
No, it looks like it is what they said on the tin.
That it looks like it was a cramp.
It was cramp. And they didn't want to gamble, which is understandable given when Frimpong said he had cramp, he didn't. He had a hamstring problem. So it's right not to gamble when you have an option.
Yeah.
Especially when your option is like Alexander Isak. You're okay.
Yeah.
You're safe.
He has a good record. He has a good record against Palace, especially at Stamford Bridge. I think he scored the last 2 times he's been there. But that's where I would do the experimenting. I think I agree with what you said at the beginning of the show, where you were talking about, slot rotating and trying to kind of be preemptive about that. But I think that only works when you've got some sort of spine, you've got some sort of solid base to work from, and then you can kind of rotate piece by piece. It feels like right now there's no settled 11 anywhere. There's no settled 11 for the starters. There's no settled 11 for the substitutes. There's nothing that, has any sort of groundedness there. And the Anfield Wrap made a great kind of analogy, and they were saying it feels like Slot is trying to wear all of his brand new Christmas clothes all at once.
Yeah.
And they don't match. And he's absolutely adamant about trying to wear them all. And I feel I thought that was a perfect analogy. I really did. I think that, he's trying to squeeze all of these new toys onto the pitch at the same time. And there's not enough of the old to carry forward the new, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes complete sense. Look, I think Dominic Szoboszlai has carried his form in from last season. I think when he plays in midfield this season, he's better than what he was last season. I think he's more involved. It just feels to me like he's more involved. You're seeing his best work when he's moved into midfield. And I think that's the problem he has with Florian Wirtz, that Sabasa is so fucking good in midfield that you have to have him. But the cost of having him is he will in this, if he's playing in a double six, he will get cut out defensively from time to time, and you're really depending on Gravenberch to be able to pick up the slack. So I don't know which way he's going to go. It's nice the fact that we have options, and whatever lineup he puts out Saturday evening is not going to please everybody. And the one thing you'll know is when the lineup drops, nobody knows what it's going to be, and I like that, because the one thing you couldn't say through last season is like, oh, pick a starting 11, it'll be the same as last one. It'll be the same as the one before, because that's just how he rolls. This season is like an 11 could drop, and you'll sit there for about 5 minutes looking at it, going, okay, how is this going to line up? Who's going to play where? Who's going to be coming off the bench? And it's like, it's nice to have the options, but at the same time, you need to be picking up 3 points. You have to be picking up 3 points, and you don't want to be going into an international break on the back of 3 losses. You know, you need to be, if you can bounce into this international break on the back of 3 points away at Stamford Bridge, you're bouncing into coming back against United. You know, if you lose against Chelsea away, which is conceivable, it's very possible. You know, it's a tough place to go at the best of times. Then you're looking at the United game in a different context, in a different light. It's bad enough having to go and play. You know, it's hard enough playing them anyway. You know, I mean, even though there are games there that we absolutely hammer them, they're still horrible. The build-up is still awful. You do that on the back of 3 losses. It's a long fucking 2-week international break. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I certainly don't want to listen. I love listening to podcasts. I love listening to fan media. I don't want to listen to 2 weeks of doom and gloom.
No, I'll find a documentary.
I'm going to have to pick up a different hobby if that's the case. But if you get a good performance and if you get a good result here, you know, it's the last week is forgotten about. Like you haven't lost any significant ground. You know, yeah, we may go into the Chelsea game in second place because I expect Arsenal to, you know, basically set piece West Ham to death. But if we can go in, get the points against Chelsea, and then go into that break and really just call that like a hard reset and just be like, okay, like we got through this hard week. That was a tough several games, tough a couple of away games right in a row. We knew that this was going to be a tough week. Get it over the line, and then just reset from there. Allow some of the players to train that are going to still be around. You know, maybe get a little bit more familiarity amongst those players. You might see players like Baccetic back in training. It looks like he's quite close. You might see a few players that, you know, are in and around the fringes that aren't going away to international break, also getting involved. Use that time and work from there. And I think just looking at it as blocks, and I think there was someone in the chat that said, you know, it's possible that Slot was actually rotating in the Crystal Palace game with an eye on this game. And if that's true, then he damn well better get this right. Yeah. Because you can't be sacrificing, you know, certain Premier League games. We know there's no easy games, and Palace certainly is not a game where you start sacrificing players. So I think it's more of Slot's trying to find what works right now, and he just doesn't have the luxury of being able to do that in games that don't count. Every game counts. Yeah. And if he fails spectacularly. Yeah. And that's the unfortunate thing. Okay. Well, let's talk a little bit about what you're thinking about goal predictions, goal scorers. You know the rules. If you give me the goal scorers, that would be fantastic. Let's touch on that.
All right. I think I'll go with what Davey said in the chat earlier. I think we win it 2-1. And I think we'll come from behind to do it. I think they'll get the lead. And I think
we have not been good from coming from behind so far.
But I think what it will do is they'll sit back. If they get the lead, I think we'll push them back, and we'll go from there. Gakpo and Salah.
Okay.
Gakpo and Salah. I think Mo's due, and it's a big game. Going back to a club that you used to play for. I've always got a thing about that with players. Whenever players go back to clubs they used to play for, I think they find an extra edge in those games, even though it was a long time ago. It'll come up in his interviews this week, no doubt about it. That it didn't work for Chelsea, for you at Chelsea. It set you on a path that got you to Liverpool, and the story. But plus the fact I think he's due, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised if, because I honestly do think that he will go with Frimpong for the reason that Frimpong will make the overlapping runs behind him, and Frimpong will force whoever is playing on the left for Chelsea to track him, and in turn that will isolate João Pedro a lot more. Although Conor Bradley does the same thing, so it's a much of a muchness. The only difference is, I think Bradley tends to make the inverted runs a lot more, whereas Frimpong will look to make the overlapping runs on Salah. But if he does that, I'd love it if Dominic Szoboszlai or Florian Wirtz was on that side with Salah to make that triangle on the right-hand side, because I think those three interlink, especially with Wirtz and Frimpong. They know each other inside out. So I think those two with Salah on that side could give good service to Isak, because that's what Isak is going to thrive on. You can't have two top-class strikers up front that are starved of service. You have to find ways of getting them involved and getting the ball to them as often as possible. I think that's probably a really good way to do it. But yeah, I'll go 2-1. Pierce Richmond is going Liverpool 3-1. Isak double with Salah. So yeah, but yeah, look, I just think Chelsea away is a shit. It's a shit. It really is.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to be an easy game. It's not one that I'm going in with a ton of confidence. I think we do tend to rise to the big occasions, historically, and this is a big occasion. So hopefully that'll help, because I do think there's been a little bit of complacency. There's been a little bit of lethargy in the way that we've approached these games. I'm really hoping for a little bit more game management in the sense that we don't start so incredibly sluggish. We had one shot on target for, I think, both of the last two games in the first half.
Yeah,
like we haven't worked the keeper in any regard. There were a few kind of lucky or unlucky situations, like Gakpo getting cleared off the line. There were a couple of situations, but we really didn't work the keeper in either of those two games. And I don't know if we are in this situation where we're trying to pass the ball into the net in the perfect scenario. But I want to see us basically just taking more shots on target, which sounds like such a stupid thing to say. It's like, oh, just score more. But like, I just feel like up until the 80th minute, we don't do that. And then around 80 minutes, we show up and we're like, okay, now we're going to try to score. And I keep coming back to the fact that, if we really want to be involved in this title race, and I still think we are, absolutely, but if we really want to be, we cannot be depending on last-minute goals, last-minute winners, last-minute equalizers. Champions don't do that. There are teams that have become champions because of late results, but that is not the bread and butter of the league. That is not how you kind of build up that steady reserve of points that you can fall back on later in the season. We've done that enough. I think we've kind of basically used up our luck in that regard. I don't want to see that again. I want to see us establishing our dominance early in games and make other teams come on to us rather than us have to come on to them. Again, easier said than done, but Slot talked a really big game at the beginning of the season, talking about wanting to go 3-0 up and really control games. We haven't seen any of that. No. We haven't seen even like a sliver of that. And, there's a lot of different reasons for it, but I want to just come back to this point where we feel like we're in control and we're not letting the other team dictate how we're playing the game, whether that's because we're down by a goal and we have to kind of throw everything at it or we have to rush at the last minute. I don't want to do that. I want to be the ones that are in control of the game. I want to dictate the pace. I want to force the other team into what we want. And that to me is what champions do. Champions aren't the ones that are constantly responding and constantly flailing. And that I think is a big problem.
Yeah. No, you're dead on. But the only thing that you'd have to say to it is the side last season and the side this season are completely different.
Oh, absolutely.
It's half the starting 11 that we're going with this season have won nothing. You know, they're still figuring it all out, and it's one thing that, and actually Gab made the point last night because I was talking about our press and how bad it is, and it's been bad all season, and it's common sense really why when you've got three of your front four are learning the triggers and learning it as they go. Yes, they're working on it in training. You can damn sure they're working really hard on it. But the 11 that won the title last season had been together for a while, and they just instinctively knew. You know, they knew the triggers, and it wasn't so much the press; it was the press that came up behind it. It was the midfielders and the fullbacks pressing on as well, and they didn't even think about it. There was a situation that led to the penalty for Galatasaray, where Gravenberch was stuck in no man's land. Should I, shouldn't I go? And he went, and then he stopped. And the ball was played inside him, and they worked it out to the other side and won the penalty. But that wouldn't have happened last season. And Gravenberch stopped and started because Kirke's half went as well. And it's like, oh, is he going to go? Isn't he going to go? Oh, okay, I'll just take the ball and I'll just pass it away from you. And took two players straight out of the game. But that's because you've got new players blending into the side. And there's little tiny mistakes like that that can lead to goal chances. And that's how it turned out.
I mean, most of our goals are mistakes.
Yeah, of course.
Mistakes from us.
But they're really
rather
simple
than
mistakes.
being under pressure. Like we're not getting penned in by anyone.
No.
You know, we have a pretty much even split between either set piece goals that we're giving away or bad turnovers from our own passes. Yeah. You know, from a couple players in particular that I'm not going to drag under the bus any further. But those seem to be the two avenues. You know, and I know that Slot spoke endlessly about, you know, set pieces again, and that being an issue. Do you think that we see any sort of change from that? Do you think that we see any sort of, you know, it seems like there's a lot of second balls that we're failing to control. There's a lot of, I don't know. It used to be such a strength of ours, and it feels like all of a sudden it's become such a weakness. And maybe it does come back to, you know, unfamiliarity again. But
possibly. But the other side of it is, I think it'll be good if, I mean, the news came out today that Allison is going to be missing until after the November international break. Yes. So the flip side of that is Mamardashvili knows he's going to be starting pretty much every game from now up until the end of November. Right? So he'll have that continuity of games, and he's a top keeper. You know, he's 6'5", 6'6". He's good in the air. He commands his box from corners. He's strong as well, and you're going to have someone on front posts, on the front post clearing the ball, who's either going to be Ekatike or Isak. More than likely going to be Isak because his match fitness is getting better and better. So even for all of Konate's problems on the ball, in the air, he's still winning ridiculous amount of headers. He's still strong in the air. So I back us to get that right. Defending set pieces, I back us to get that right. It's turning those winning set pieces into effective counterattacks like we know we can do. That's what I want to see improve over the next 4 to 6 games. And, you know, they're not going to be an easy 4 to 6 games. I think with Man United, with Real Madrid, with Man City coming up. It's not easy. There's not easy games, but they're games that are very easy for players to get up for and very easy to have a healthy fear. Like Chelsea, going away to Chelsea, players will have a healthy fear, which creates an edge. And having that edge is going to be really good for them. It's not like... I wonder how many of them went into that away game at Galatasaray half expecting to just turn them over because of how Galatasaray played in their first game in the Champions League.
I mean, it's still away at Galatasaray. Like, I don't know if you can really go into that and be surprised.
I think it's a mentality thing when it comes to players. They look at this, it's the Turkish league. Yeah, they got some good players, but look, Stavros Sanchez, he was shite when he was at Spurs. And with that kind of mentality, a lot of the players that Galatasaray have are there because they have been good somewhere else. They're not that good now. And they went in with the wrong mentality as if Galatasaray were somehow going to turn over for them. And
I thought they were great.
I thought they were.
They were very good at what they could do.
Yeah,
like they knew that they'd be at a disadvantage in certain areas, and they basically said, okay, fine, we'll let them have the ball there. We're going to take control by cutting off passing lanes and making sure that there's not an easy pass for anyone. Exactly. And they did that really, really well. And then they turned it into a bitty game. Yeah. They turn it into a stop-start game because they know that if we get into flow, that's where we're more dangerous. Yeah. We haven't figured out a way to deal with this kind of bitty nature of like a Burnley or this. We're not very good at it. Nope. And obviously teams like that need to play that way in order to try to, protect what they have and whatnot. But I still feel like we should have a plan in place that's more effective than what we currently have.
Yeah, my biggest worry in the Galatasaray game was that we couldn't have built effective attacks. We kept trying. I think we dilly-dallied on the ball too much. We held on to the ball instead of releasing it quickly in certain situations. Konate was guilty of it more than once, but he wasn't the only one. There was a few that held on to the ball too long. But I felt that we didn't know how to get the ball into our strikers in an effective, meaningful way. It happened a couple of times.
Midfield.
Yeah, but we didn't have a midfield. The midfield that we had were too spread. They were too far apart. And the pitch, we didn't play in the areas of the pitch that we needed to be playing in. I think with Chelsea, it's going to be different because, look, it's the two sides are going to mirror each other. They're both going to play a version of a 4-2-3-1. It's going to be man for man, and players are going to have to win their individual battles. It's going to be a proper game. And whoever wins more of their individual battles is going to win it. I still think it's going to come down to midfield. Can Wirtz or whoever plays in the 10 get over on Caicedo? Can Gravenberch track the runs from Enzo Fernandez and nullify his threats? Can whoever plays McAllister, who's going to set the tempo? McAllister, or if Jones plays, or Szoboszlai, whoever plays in that second six, can we get the ball out wide effectively? Can we get support up to whoever's playing up front properly? Can we win corners and make them pay?
I mean, I would love for any corner to be effective, to be quite honest, because the corners are obviously, everyone knows, one of my pet peeves.
Yeah.
It is something that I just desperately want to get better at. And I don't know if you've noticed recently, it does feel like Konate's very good at winning headers. You're absolutely right. Yeah. But it seems like he's the one that we're targeting on almost every single corner. And although he can win the header, he's not very good at directing it goal bound. I think that he's won probably about half of the ones that come in his direction, if not more. But not a single one is worth the keeper. No. So I'm not 100% sure if that's the way forward. I don't think that Ibu has scored in over a year at this point, and I'd much rather work something a little bit more clever, or work it toward Virgil. We know Virgil can score with his head.
But so what you're really saying is Konate is due, right?
Sure, we can look at the glass half full. I don't know where Grumpy Kev is this evening, but we can look at the glass half full.
I'll be back after the post, after the Chelsea game. Don't worry, I'll be back after the Chelsea game, I think.
Yeah, no, it's just something I've noticed. I mean, we've improved the delivery, but I just think that the person on the end of it isn't doing anything with it.
The only thing I'd love to see Wirtz taking more corners. I don't like Gakpo taking set pieces for the same reasons I don't like some. I don't mind Szoboszlai to an extent.
I think Szoboszlai is better this season.
But I prefer Gakpo in the box. I prefer that extra aerial threat in the box. He's 6'3". He can win balls in the air. He's not a weakling. if you have 4 players that are 6'2" plus, and I mean, we've really do have 4 players there that are over 6'4". There is no reason why we shouldn't be able to work, even working a short corner to get a ball in. That draws another player out to free up more space. We just have to be better at it. I think, what was it you were saying? We haven't scored in something like 31.
Oh God, I think we're probably up to about 35 now when you count.
Yeah, and that was just in the Premier League.
Yeah, it's up. It's somewhere between 30 and 35.
Yeah.
In the Premier League, where we have not scored from a single corner.
And it's the one thing you can say about Liverpool. When we're normally in our flow, we'll win between 10 and 12, maybe 15 corners a game. It's not beyond the realms of possibility for Liverpool to win 6 or 7 corners a half. And that should be much more of a threat. I don't like long throws. I think long throws are a complete waste of fucking time.
Seems very in vogue right now.
Do you know what? The best game of football I've watched this season, not one long throw. Not one.
I honestly, I just need to take the towels away from all of the.
I watched Barcelona PSG the other night. Not a single long throw was taken. It was a fabulous game of football. And it was the first time that I've sat down and watched a game of football and I didn't give a shit who won. I just sat down and I watched it and I was thoroughly entertained by 2 top quality sides playing football on a really high level. And
it
on
wasn't
a level that
start.
We're no,
it was very flowy.
And it was on a level that we are nowhere near.
Yes.
We're nowhere near
the exact same. I was watching that and I was like, okay, if this is what we're competing against, we have a long way to go.
Yeah.
We have a long way to go. It's not that we don't have the raw materials and it's not like it can't click, but that level is very different from the level that we're playing. And if we were to play either of those 2 teams right now, I think we'd get absolutely slapped. To an embarrassing point. I'd be really, really worried. So I don't know. I mean, there's a comment here from Steven that says we need to stop panicking and chill out. We always knew the start of the season was going to be chaotic, and to think otherwise is just ignoring all of the upheaval that has gone on in the summer. You're right. You're right. There is a lot of upheaval. I think we talked about that pretty freely on this channel.
Yeah.
As something that we were nervous about. I think that perhaps we've gotten lulled into a false sense of security by some of the early results. And, like Liverpool fans do, we tend to kind of get overexcited and jump onto a bandwagon. But I don't think anyone here is getting particularly carried away. I think we're just sort of telling it like it is.
Here's the thing, Stephen. Chaotic is one thing. Not being able to pass the ball 5 yards is another fucking thing. That's
rudimentary.
That's nothing to do with players who've been signed. That's ignorance of the basics. And they're the basics of football from the time you enter an academy. And it doesn't matter where the fuck that academy is. Players being able to pass from A to B and move with the ball or without the ball is simple stuff. And they're not being asked to do anything out of the ordinary. They're being asked to play in a 4-2-3-1, which they play at most clubs, which they play at most international levels. It's not alien to them. They're being asked to look after the ball, and they're not looking after the ball. They're making the games harder for themselves by not looking after the ball. And it's the one thing you could level with Slot's. The difference between Slot and Jurgen Klopp's sides was Arne Slot came in, and his tenement throughout last season was look after the ball, keep the ball, dominate the ball, draw sides on, but make the extra pass and play the percentages. There's times to press, there's times to be aggressive, but more often than not, look after the ball. And we're just fucking not doing it. And I understand what you're saying about upheaval and lots of new signings and what have you. And I understand that from a defensive point of view, when it comes to triggers for a press and counter pressing and even defending set pieces. I understand that side of it. But there's simple basics of tenements of football that when you have the ball, you look after it. When you see it pass, you make it. And if it's not on, turn around and go back and rebuild and reset and go again. I want to see more of that. and I don't care what the 11 players are on the pitch. I want us looking after the ball a bit more. Just look after the ball, draw sides onto you, draw fouls. Do the basics, but build attacks properly, and look to create in the final third. Be inventive, but secure. Be secure in what you're doing, but mind the ball. You're not asking for anyone to do anything out of the ordinary here. You're not asking for individual brilliance all the time to win a game. You're just asking for players to look after the ball, pass and move, put crosses into the box, win the second balls, win your battles, and build a team from there. And I honestly think that's what I think that's what he's trying to do.
I think that is what he's trying to do. But keeping it simple, keeping it solid, not doing any sort of silly passes like we've seen time and time and time again. That's how you create that stable foundation for all of those new players to thrive. I don't know what it would be like. Like a penny for their thoughts or whatever the, phrase is overseas. But I would love to understand how the new players are feeling integrating into this team, because
I think Florian Wirtz is actually playing okay.
I think he is playing okay.
He's doing all right.
And he is, like, his numbers are very good. There was a meme that was going around, or a Twitter thing that was going around, that was saying, he's created the most attacking chances, and I understand that. But looking at Florian Wirtz, I feel like we're looking at him, we're almost asking too much of him, if that makes any sense.
I think the price tag. The price tag.
Well, the price tag, you've got this record-breaking midfielder, and you're like, okay, like, he can solve all of our problems, but he cannot simultaneously be Dominic Szoboszlai in midfield, Luis Diaz on the left wing, and Trent Alexander-Arnold in creativity. He can't be all three of those things, and we are asking him right now to be the presser that Luis Diaz was, to be the kind of dominant, athletic personnel that Szoboszlai is in midfield. And then we're asking him to take over the creative role that Trent had at right back. And if you're asking him to do all of those things, maybe at the peak of his powers, when he is 100% on it and integrated into the team, maybe that's what he'll be going forward. But at this point in time, like, yes, he's touching the ball more than anyone else. He's winning more aerial duels than anyone else, which was wild when I looked at that. He's winning more duels than Konate and Ibu, which is crazy. So it's not like he's not doing the work. And he's doing a lot of, like, the work that isn't super glamorous, which I respect from him, because that's not always his game. But I just think that there's too much going through him. It's all being funneled. And it's like, even if he hit the ground running, which he hasn't, I still think it'd be too much, because I think that it's actually taking away from other players. It's blunting other players in a way that I don't think that was the intention, but that's what's happening.
Well, Stephen makes a point here. You have to listen. We have to acknowledge that the opposition are allowed to play football, and we're not entitled. You have to earn that right. Here's the thing. Your job is to stop the opposition playing. And we made it so easy for Palace. It was criminal. That first half against Palace was fucking criminal. We made it so easy for Palace.
We cannot do that again for Chelsea. And we won't have Alisson to save us with those one-on-one saves. No.
And the other side of it, with Galatasaray, we never got in positions to be able to ask them questions. I don't think we really worked their keeper enough. And you talk about opposition are allowed to play. You have to nullify what they're doing. And you have to be able to see that and adjust to that in game. And I think our biggest problem is that we're giving up. The chances that we're giving up are so silly. They're so basic in giving the ball away in bad areas. It's not through their pressure. It's more to do with our mistakes and individual errors. You have to cut them out. And it's going to take time for partnerships on the left and the right to evolve. But to do that, you have to have a consistency in selection. And you have to have that consistency in selection. It wasn't helped in August when Frimpong and Bradley both got injured. So when they've now come back, you're in the situation where Galatasaray, for whatever reason, he decided not to play Frimpong at right back. But you hope that that's going to be corrected on
Did
Saturday.
you find it weird that he didn't correct it mid-game?
Yeah.
Because he had Szoboszlai and Frimpong on the pitch, and he could have just flipped them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I thought that was very bizarre.
Yeah. It's one of those things. If you're going to play a right-sided player on the right-hand side, and Frimpong has pace to burn to beat any fullback, and he did. He got by his fullback a couple of times in that first half, and put crosses in, and that's what you want him to do. But if you're going to have Frimpong playing on the right, you really have to have someone that he can turn around and knock the ball back to. And
maybe Szoboszlai in midfield. Maybe you bring Bradley on, and then you could play all your right backs at the same time.
Yeah. But I think that it would have been definitely available to play a 4-4-2 in that game. Play Szoboszlai on the right-hand side of midfield, play Frimpong behind him, and play that 4-2-2 that we've kind of played before, but play your wide midfield.
Not at Palace.
Well. No, but play your wide midfield as well. Play a two-man midfield. Galatasaray were never going to play through the middle of us. Galatasaray were looking to play around us and look for balls over the fullbacks, and that was their target. And that was evident early on in their first attack when Alisson made that first save. Chelsea aren't going to do that. Chelsea are going to look to play wide with their two wingers and look to pen us in with their two holding midfielders. And then when they do pen us in, they'll look for Enzo Fernandez to make that extra man run into midfield and look to find him with crosses from wide. So you have to stop the ball at source. But then having the ability to play the counter with Salah, who will likely be cheating on one side, or Gakpo, who will likely be cheating when the ball's on our right-hand side. He'll be looking to hang out on the left. It's one thing I think that you're massively missing from when Trent was in the 11 is that ability to switch play quickly. Where at the minute when we're looking to switch the play, we're moving the ball from side to side in 3 and 4 passes, sometimes 5 to get across. And
we're going back to the keeper. Every fifth pass is back to the keeper.
And I don't mind that if you're looking to recycle possession, but if you're looking to switch
but that's
play,
not what we're doing.
No.
Like we're not able to string 10 passes together. We're going up the pitch and then we're meandering back, and then we're going up and then we're meandering back. Like we're not penetrating at all.
No, I know. It's
we can all see we're all frustrated.
Yeah, we're all frustrated. And
it just takes one result though to kind of turn this around.
I think it's more of a performance. I think it's more of a performance
that's what I mean.
than anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, look, a couple of things. Patreon, the link is on the screen with the QR code. A lot more shows that happen on Patreon that obviously can't be on YouTube. If you don't know, Patreon, we generally do a lot of deep dives, news video analysis to discuss games in depth, to discuss referees, ref watch with Ashley. We also discuss a lot of other stuff as well, but there's some really good content going to be coming up over the international break. So if it's something that interests you, click on the QR code. It's about the price of a pint. If you don't like it after a month, just cancel it. We ain't going to fall out with anyone over it. And the other thing is the show's helped by NordVPN. If you are looking for a VPN, the link is in the description. Everyone knows who NordVPN are. They are bloody good. And if you are looking to upgrade your on a VPN, click on the link. It helps the channel out a hell of a lot. We really would appreciate it.
Yeah. We've had very, very good reviews on NordVPN from our traveling Talkin Kop members.
Yes, I can.
Works in Spain.
It works in Spain.
In China. I'm going to test it out in Costa Rica in a few weeks. Hopefully, all will be well. So far, so good. I mean, it worked. It's worked everywhere that we've tried it. So,
yeah.
And it also works for anyone that's close to home and wants to watch a 3 p.m. game. That's also available for you.
Yeah. You can eulogize and watch the North American adverts at halftime, and
for some reason you guys think they're so great.
It's an experience. This advert is brought to you by.
If you're into American advertisements, it's perfect for you.
Yeah.
If you live in America, it's pretty
Soul
brain draining. We'll go with that. But what we're hoping is not going to be soul destroying is the game this weekend. I would very, very much love a performance from the Reds, and I would love it not to be heart attacking inducing. That would be fantastic as well. So I think that's us for tonight. From Kev and I, we'd like to thank everyone in the chat for participating. The show wouldn't be without what it is without you guys. It really does make it. And please continue to support us in the chat. Give us a like if it's something that you enjoy. We don't normally, beg for likes or anything like that, but it does help the channel. And yeah, we will be back for a post-match reaction. Matt will be back from China. It should be our regular 4, which will be great. We haven't had that in a little while. And helpful hint for anyone that's in FPL, there's a Friday game. So if you need to set your teams, do that tonight or tomorrow morning. Otherwise, you will be screwed. So that's about it. Kev, do you want to hit that outro and take us out of here? And I will just say goodnight to everyone once again. And thank you so much. We will see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.